Good morning. It is Friday, May the 10th, and this is The Drill. Thank you very much. And this is Ron, your host, one of only two true conservatives in the United States of America today, because President Donald Trump and myself are the only ones that make the presumption for the status quo. But actually, like I said, I'm thinking of expanding that list to 5 people: Ayn Rand, John Cobalt, and Ken Champeau, because Ayn Rand would, probably have a fit if or would roll in her grave to be considered a conservative. But I think, as a matter of fact, she does make the presumption for the status quo, that she's willing to make changes when changes are necessary. And the same thing with, if you listen to the John and Ken show on KFI AM 640, it's a podcast. And if you listen to their show, you're going to find that they have a tendency to be, and they claim that they're not conservative, they're not liberal, they really don't classify themselves politically, but it's a more common sense program. And they're willing to use words like right and wrong. They're willing to call people stupid when people act stupid. They're willing to call things what they are in reality. So that's what it makes me think that both of these two should be classified as true conservatives. So this morning I was listening to actually KBC for a change, and listening to their morning program. And one of the things that I heard that was that I've talked about before was the let it go philosophy that you hear so often. And it was Jillian Barber that said it this morning, because there was a report of a lady that was getting robbed, and she resisted, and she ended up getting killed. And she was getting robbed of her purse. Somebody tried to take her purse, and she wouldn't let it go, and they ended up running over her in their car, and it's a big deal, and she ends up dying. So Jillian Barber says, "Okay, ladies, let go of your purse, give it up. We say it all the time. You should give up your purse because it's not worth it." And nothing could be farther from the truth. Jillian Barber would be right if it were true that we live forever. If we live forever and ever and ever, and we never die, then you're right. We just let it go, because I will go out making more money and go out and get another purse. By the way, especially if that, I've had some girlfriends in the past with rather expensive taste, and they like Dooney and Burke, they like Fendi. We're talking $400 to $600 a shot just for the purse. Forget about what's in it, the wallet and all that stuff. So another good reason. But the point is that, again, every piece of property that you own because you earned it, and you earned it by putting your time. Okay, you also put labor into it, or sweat into it, or whatever, but you put your time into it. So that Fendi purse, this $400, might be represent almost a week's pay. And for some people, maybe it does represent a whole week's pay. For others, it may be just a day's pay. Who knows? But the point is that it represents time. And time, since we are all mortal, we all know that we're at some point in our lives we're going to die. We're never going to get back. I'm never going to get that time back. So that possession, that piece of property, is precious to me. And then there's also the psychological components to that particular piece of property. It means something to you. It may have been, that purse may have been given to that woman by her husband on their anniversary, by another relative or a friend on her birthday. Maybe she got it on her anniversary, or maybe she got it on, like I said, a birthday. Maybe she got it for Christmas or something. So every time she sees that purse, she's reminded of those particular events. So you've got the psychological reasons, and the fact that we're not immortal, the fact that we're going to die someday, which is the most important reason that for fighting for your property. Now, it's basically up to you to decide. You may decide, you know what, it isn't worth it. I'm going to let it go, and I will, get something else later, whatever the situation is. But it's your decision to make. Don't listen to the people that say that you should automatically forfeit your property. All of your property means something to you, and if nothing else, it means an investment in your time, time of your life that you will never, ever get back, because we're all mortal. The other issue that came up today on KABC was a news article about in Lancaster, California. It was actually ended up on the internet, but the individuals involved were apparently from the Lancaster Unified School District, and they were, we don't know if, we assume that they were faculty or staff, but it was a group of individuals holding a noose. And so, of course, this becomes a news item. And I'm here to tell you it shouldn't be. Shouldn't be a news item. It just shouldn't. But the reason that it is a news item is because the the influences of the left on our culture. The left has convinced everybody that reality is what the majority says it is, that reality is up for a vote. And so one has to be constantly vigilant, because if you're not constantly vigilant and actively trying to prevent the reemergence of slavery, of Jim Crow, that the majority at least of white people, might get up to no good and take a vote and decide, hey, let's go back to Jim Crow. Let's go back to lynching. And I'm here to tell you that's crap. The reason that we don't have Jim Crow in this country is because it's wrong. And because we learned that it's wrong. And we know that it's wrong. And when I say we, I mean everybody. White people, black people, people of any and every color. So even if white people, for some reason, whatever, decided, you all of a sudden got a majority of white people in this country that decide to try to bring back Jim Crow, do you think anybody else is going to put up with it for a second? Do you really think that blacks are going to go ahead and drink from separate water fountains just because whites have decided to bring back Jim Crow? Do you think blacks are going to meekly go to their death in a tree somewhere just because whites decided they want to bring back? No. Why? Because we know better. We all know. We know it's wrong. We know that we don't have to put up with it. But we know that it's wrong. It's universally wrong. It's wrong for everybody at all times, everywhere. We've learned our lesson. That's why this shouldn't be an issue. We don't need to be constantly reminded of Jim Crow and that we had a Jim Crow in our country. We don't need to be reminded of that because it's not coming back. Slavery's not coming back. Jim Crow isn't coming back. They're just not coming back. Okay, so that's the reason why that should not be a news item. You know, the fact that somebody wants to hold a noose. I mean, these folks in this photograph, I don't know. We still don't know who they are or why they took the photograph. But are these folks in the photograph? Is this whole taking of the photograph with a noose, was this in good taste? No, it was an absolutely abysmal taste, and these individuals should be frowned on and shunned, and given by their friends and peers and whatnot, should maybe decide, no, I'm not going to have lunch with you anymore, that kind of thing, because it's in extremely poor taste. But is it a threat? Is it a threat to the civil rights of anybody in this country, let alone blacks? No. Is it a threat to our way of life? Is it a threat to our democracy? No. Is it a threat to the United States? Is it a threat to the world? No. It's of no threat whatsoever. No threat whatsoever. So, again, these people should be, there's of course talk about whether or not they should be fired, and that's none of my business. That's up to the school district and the people that send their children to schools in that school district as to what happens to these individuals. But it does bring up another interesting situation. If these faculty members, some of these people are faculty members, they may very well be unionized. So they're public employees, but they're unionized, so it may be difficult, if not impossible, to fire them. And it shouldn't be that way. If somebody's a public employee, they should be subject to the wants, the whims for that matter, of the public, of the general public. If you're a police officer and the people in the town that you're policing don't like you, they should be able to get rid of you, no matter what it is, why it is they don't like you. Okay? They don't like you, they don't like your attitude, whatever it is, they should be able to go to en masse to the police department, go to the city council, and say, we want this guy gone, and have him fired. Instead, you're going to have to go through a union situation, which means that his job is his property, so he can't be fired without due process of law. And so it becomes a long, drawn-out process. So the same thing might be with these individuals in the photograph. If they're faculty members and they're union members, it's going to be harder than hell to get rid of them. And it shouldn't be that way. If the people of Lancaster decide they want them gone, they should be gone, and they should be gone quick. So that brings us to the conclusion of another episode of The Drill, and until next time, thank you very much for listening, and have a great day.